The rain hammered against the pavement outside Eclipse, Chicago's most exclusive nightclub, creating rivers that rushed toward the storm drains. Marcus Williams stood in line, his designer shoes already soaked through, watching the golden glow emanating from the club's entrance 20 feet ahead. The velvet rope that separated the chosen few from everyone else might as well have been a castle wall. Next, the bouncer's voice cut through the rain like a blade. He was massive, 6'5", at least, with shoulders that strained against his black security jacket. His name tag read Dimitri, and his expression suggested he'd rather be anywhere else. Marcus stepped forward, pulling his ID from his wallet. The leather was damp despite his efforts to shield it from the rain. Behind him, the line stretched around the corner. A collection of hopeful faces all wanting the same thing: entry into Chicago's most coveted night spot. Name? Dimitri asked, not bothering to look up from his tablet. Marcus Williams. I should be on the list. My colleague Sarah Chen made the reservation. Dimitri's thick fingers swiped across the screen. Once, twice, his frown deepened. No Williams. On tonight's list, could you check again? Maybe under Chen. Already did. Dimitri finally looked up, his pale blue eyes taking in Marcus's appearance, the tailored suit that had cost him 2 months' salary. The Italian leather shoes now ruined by the rain, the Rolex his father had given him for graduating law school. None of it mattered. Step aside. There must be some mistake. Sarah said step aside. Each word was punctuated with finality. You're holding up the line. Marcus felt heat rise to his face, despite the cold rain. He could see inside the club through the glass doors. Beautiful people in beautiful clothes, drinking beautiful drinks. The bass from the music inside thrummed through his chest, a heartbeat he couldn't join. Look, I'm meeting important clients in there. If you could just do, I need to call someone to escort you away. Dimitri's hand moved to the radio clipped to his belt. No, that won't be necessary. Marcus stepped back, his shoes splashing in a puddle. The couple behind him, both blonde and radiating wealth, smirked as they moved forward. Dimitri Burley glanced at his tablet before unhooking the velvet rope for them. Marcus retreated to the side of the building, finding minimal shelter under a narrow awning. He pulled out his phone, shielding it from the rain, and dialed Sarah's number. Straight to voicemail. He tried again. Same result. Damn it, he muttered, sending her a text. They say I'm not on the list. Where are you? The 3 dots indicating she was typing appeared, then disappeared, then nothing. He checked his email. There it was, sent yesterday at 3:47 p.m. Marcus's reservation confirmed for Eclipse tomorrow night. List is under Chen. Client meeting at 10 p.m. in VIP section. Don't be late. VIP section. Of course, even if he could get inside, there was another velvet rope waiting for him, another bouncer to tell him he didn't belong. Marcus had been with Harriman and Associates for 3 years, working his way up from junior associate to senior associate faster than anyone in the firm's history. He'd won cases that partners had deemed unwinnable, had brought in clients worth millions in billing. But here, standing in the rain outside a nightclub, none of that mattered. He was just another nobody with wet shoes and a bruised ego. His phone buzzed. Sarah, inside already. Where are you? He typed back. They won't let me in. Not on the list. What? I added you myself. Come to the side entrance. I'll talk to them. Marcus walked around the building, his shoes squelching with each step. The side entrance was less glamorous, a simple black door with a single security guard who looked even less friendly than Dimitri. If that was possible. I'm meeting someone inside, Marcus began. Sarah Chen. She's coming to no entry through this door without a staff badge. The guard interrupted. I'm not trying to sneak in. My colleague is literally coming to step back from the door. Marcus's phone rang. Sarah's face appeared on the screen. Where are you? She asked, her voice barely audible over the music in the background. Side entrance. They won't let me in here either. This is ridiculous. Let me find a manager. The line went dead. Marcus stood in the rain, watching taxis splash through the streets, their yellow bodies reflecting in the wet pavement like fleeting suns. He thought about leaving, about telling Sarah he'd come down with food poisoning or his car had broken down. Anything but the truth that he, Marcus Williams, the firm's rising star, couldn't get past a velvet rope. 5 minutes passed, then 10. His phone remained silent except for the occasional notification from apps he never used. The rain had soaked through his suit jacket now, the cold seeping into his bones. A group of young women in impossibly high heels and tiny dresses rushed past him toward the main entrance, shrieking and laughing as they tried to shield their hair from the rain. He watched Dimitri wave them through without even checking the list. One of them dropped her clutch, and Marcus instinctively bent to pick it up. "Thanks," she said, barely glancing at him before rejoining her friends inside the golden glow of eclipse. Marcus straightened his tie, a futile gesture given his drenched state and made one more attempt at the main entrance. The line had shortened, the rain had driven away the less determined. Dimitri saw him coming and held up a meaty hand. "I told you, I know what you told me," Marcus interrupted, surprising himself with the edge in his voice. "But I have clients and they're expecting me. Important clients. If I lose this deal because of your list, not my problem." Dimitri crossed his arms, the gesture making him look even more imposing. "You want to complain? Call the management office Monday morning." "Monday morning won't help me tonight." "Then I guess you're out of luck." Marcus felt something inside him snap, not anger exactly, but a kind of tired frustration that had been building for years. All the times he'd been overlooked for promotions that went to partners' sons, all the meetings where his ideas were dismissed until someone else repeated them, all the client dinners where he was mistaken for a waiter or asked to fetch drinks. It all crystallized in this moment, standing in the rain outside a club that had decided he didn't belong before he'd even opened his mouth. "You know what?" Marcus said, his voice quiet but steady. "Forget it." He turned and walked away, not back to the side entrance or to his car, but down the street toward the lake. The rain felt almost warm now compared to the cold that had settled in his chest. His phone buzzed repeatedly, Sarah calling, but he let it ring. 2 blocks from Eclipse, he found a small bar, the kind of place that had probably been there since Prohibition and would be there long after Eclipse was just another empty storefront. The neon sign reading Murphy's flickered in the rain, and the door opened with a creak that spoke of decades of use. Inside, it was everything Eclipse wasn't: dim lighting from actual bulbs instead of LEDs, worn leather stools that had molded 2000s of backs, a jukebox in the corner playing Motown hits. The bartender, a woman in her 60s with silver hair pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail, looked up as Marcus entered. "Lord, honey, you look like a drowned rat," she said, already reaching for a bar towel. "What happened to you?" "Got caught in the rain," Marcus said, accepting the towel gratefully. "Uh-huh. And I'm the Queen of England." She poured a generous measure of whiskey without being asked. "This is on the house. You look like you need it." Marcus took a sip, feeling the warmth spread through his chest. "Thanks, I'm Marcus. Dorothy. But everyone calls me. Dot." She leaned against the bar, studying him. "That's a nice suit under all that rain. What's a fancy lawyer doing in my bar?" "How did you know I was a lawyer?" "Honey, I've been tending bar for 40 years. I can spot a lawyer, a cop, and a politician from across the room. It's the shoes that give you away. Even soaked. Those are $3,000 shoes." "2,000, Marcus corrected, then laughed at himself. "And they're ruined now. So what's really got you looking like someone stole your dog?" "Can't be just the rain." Marcus found himself telling her about Eclipse, about the velvet rope and Dimitri, and the client meeting he was missing. Dot listened without interrupting, occasionally refilling his glass. "You know what your problem is?" she said when he finished. "You're trying to get into places that don't want you. Spending all your energy banging on doors that are locked tight. It's a client meeting. I have to be there." "No, you don't." The bartender busied herself wiping down glasses, giving him space to process what had just happened. His phone rang. Richard Hartley's name appeared on the screen. Marcus stared at it for a long moment, then made a decision that surprised him. He declined the call. "Good for you," Dot said quietly. "I might have just ended my career. Or started it. Hard to tell from here." Marcus picked up Tom Brennan's business card, running his thumb over the raised lettering. Such a simple thing, a name and a number. But it felt heavier than that, weighted with possibility. Outside, the rain was beginning to let up. Through Murphy's windows, Marcus could see the clouds breaking apart, revealing patches of star-studded sky. The storm was passing, as storms always did. He thought about Eclipse, about Dimitri, and his list, about the VIP section he'd never see. A few hours ago, it had seemed like the most important thing in the world. Now, sitting in a worn leather stool in a bar that smelled of decades of spilled beer and broken dreams and new beginnings, it seemed very small indeed. His phone buzzed one more time. "Sarah, I'm so sorry, Marcus. I don't know what happened. Hartley left. He says he's calling Peterson in the morning. Peterson, the managing partner. The man who would decide whether Marcus had a future at Harriman and Associates. Marcus typed back. It's okay. These things happen. Okay, your career could be over. This is all my fault. I should have double-checked the list. I should have. He turned off his phone before reading the rest. Tomorrow would bring what it would bring. Tonight, he was warm and dry, and he'd met someone who saw past the velvet rope to the person standing in the rain. Another whiskey? Dot asked. Why not? Apparently, it's on the house. Tommy's house, anyway. She poured with a generous hand. You know, he's right about the storm thing. I've seen a lot of people come through that door over the years. The ones who make it, really make it, are usually the ones who got caught in the rain first. Is that supposed to be comforting? It's supposed to be true. Comfort is extra. Marcus laughed, despite himself. How much extra? More than you can afford if you're drinking on someone else's tab. They sat in companionable silence for a while, the jukebox cycling through its collection of oldies. Outside, the city went about its business, taxis honking, sirens wailing, people hurrying past with umbrellas and purpose. Inside Murphy's, time moved differently, measured in sips and songs rather than billable hours. You know what the funny thing is? Marcus said eventually. I didn't even want to go to Eclipse. I hate places like that. Too loud, too crowded, too desperate. So why were you trying so hard to get in? Because that's where I was supposed to be. That's where the meeting was. That's where my career was happening. And now? Marcus looked around the barat, the faded photographs on the walls, the initials carved into the wooden tables, the soft light that made everyone look a little bit younger and a little bit wiser. Now I'm not sure where my career is happening. Maybe that's okay. Maybe that's better than okay, Dot suggested. Maybe that's the beginning of something, of what that's the good part you get to decide. The door opened again, bringing a young couple seeking shelter from the rain. They were laughing, holding hands, clearly on a date that had been derailed by the weather but not deterred by it. Dot moved to serve them, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts and Tom Brennan's business card. He thought about calling Tom tomorrow, about the conversation they might have. Not about a job, he wasn't ready for that yet, but about possibilities. About what came after the velvet rope, after the list, after the rain. His reflection in the bar mirror looked different somehow. Same face, same suit, though significantly more wrinkled. Same hands wrapped around the same glass. But something had shifted, some small but essential piece had clicked into place, or fallen away. He couldn't tell which, and maybe it didn't matter. The couple at the other end of the bar was deep in conversation now, their earlier laughter replaced by something more intimate. They'd forgotten about the rain, forgotten about wherever they'd been trying to go. They were just here, present, connected. Marcus raised his glass in a silent toast to Tom Brennan. 2 storms that washed away the unnecessary. 2 velvet ropes that directed you to better places. 2 endings that might be beginnings. Most of all, to the simple truth that sometimes the best thing that could happen was not getting what you thought you wanted. The whiskey burned warm down his throat, and outside, the last of the clouds drifted away, revealing a clear night sky over Chicago. Somewhere out there, Eclipse was still spinning its exclusive web. Dimitri was still guarding his list, and people were still standing in line for the privilege of being let inside. But here in Murphy's, Marcus Williams was already exactly where he needed to be. Marcus woke to sunlight streaming through his bedroom window, a stark contrast to the previous night's storm. His head throbbed not from the whiskey, he'd been careful about that, but from the weight of what today would bring. The clock reads 6:47 a.m. In 13 minutes, his alarm would sound. Beginning what might be his last day at Harriman and Associates, he lay still, staring at the ceiling of his Lincoln Park apartment. The exposed brick walls and hardwood floors had seemed like such an achievement when he'd signed the lease 2 years ago. Evidence of his success, his upward trajectory. Now, they just felt like expensive props in a play he was no longer sure he wanted to perform in. His phone, turned off, since Murphy's, sat on the nightstand like an unexploded bomb. Marcus knew the moment he powered it on, reality would come flooding back, missed calls, texts, emails, all documenting his professional catastrophe in real time. The alarm buzzed, time to face the music. He moved through his morning routine, with mechanical precision, shower, shave. The suit he selected was his sharpest charcoal gray with a subtle pinstripe. The one he wore for closing arguments. If he was going down, he'd go down looking impeccable. The phone came alive with a cascade of notifications. 17 missed calls, 43 texts, 62 emails. Marcus scrolled through them, his stomach tightening with each message. Sarah, please call me ASAP. Sarah. Marcus, where are you? Sarah, Peterson wants to see you at 8 a.m. sharp. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I tried to explain but Hartley wouldn't listen. Sarah, are you okay? I'm worried. From Hartley, extremely disappointed in your unprofessionalism. We'll be discussing with Peterson. From Peterson's assistant, Mr. Peterson requests your presence in his office at 8 a.m. Please confirm receipt of this message. Marcus typed a simple confirmed and pocketed his phone. Tom Brennan's business card was still in his wallet, slightly damp but legible. He placed it on his dresser, a reminder that yesterday had been real, not some whiskey-induced dream. The drive to the office was unusually peaceful. Traffic moved steadily for once, as if the universe was ensuring he'd have no excuse for being late to his own execution. The familiar glass tower of Harriman and Associates rose before him, 52 floors of legal machinery that had been his entire world for 3 years. In the parking garage, he met Sarah by the elevators. She looked like she hadn't slept, her usually perfect makeup smudged, her designer dress wrinkled. Marcus, thank God. I've been calling all night. Where were you? I turned my phone off. You turned your... How could you turn your phone off? Do you have any idea what happened after you left? Hartley was furious. He said we'd wasted his time, that we were unprofessional. He threatened to take his business to Morrison and Forster. Did he? Sarah blinked. Did he what? Take his business to Morrison and Forster. I don't know. Maybe. Marcus, aren't you upset? Your career could be over. I'm aware. The elevator arrived, and they stepped inside. Marcus pressed the button for the 42nd floor, the executive level. What exactly did you tell Peterson? The truth. That I put you on the list, that there must have been some mix-up, that it wasn't your fault. She paused. He didn't seem to care about fault. He just kept saying this was unacceptable and embarrassing to the firm. And what did you tell Hartley? Sarah's face flushed. I tried to explain. I said you were on your way, that there was a problem at the door, but he'd been drinking, and you know how he gets. Actually, I don't, because I've never been allowed to see how he gets. I've written his contracts, saved his deals, made him millions. But I've never been in the room when he's being himself. That's not... You think you do, but you don't. She wiped down the bar with practiced movements. Let me tell you something. The places that matter, the people who matter, they don't make you stand in the rain. They don't check lists. They open the door and say, come on in, we've been waiting for you. That's a nice thought, but it doesn't help me with my clients. Your clients who are drinking champagne in the VIP section while you're standing in the rain. Those clients. Marcus didn't have an answer for that. His phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Richard Hartley, one of the clients he was supposed to meet. Where are you? This Chen woman says you couldn't get in. Very unprofessional. See, Marcus showed the text. This is what I'm talking about. This could cost me my job, or it could be the best thing that ever happened to you. Dot poured herself a small measure of whiskey. Sometimes the universe puts a velvet rope in front of us for a reason. Maybe it's not keeping you out, maybe it's directing you somewhere else, to a bar in Rogers Park. Why not? You never know who you might meet in a bar in Rogers Park. As if on cue, the door opened, bringing with it another gust of rain and cold air. A man entered, shaking water from his coat. He was in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and the kind of casual clothes that suggested either poverty or extreme wealth. In Chicago, it was often hard to tell the difference. Tommy, Dot called out. I was wondering if you'd brave the storm tonight. Wouldn't miss Thursday night at Murphy's. Dot, you know, that the man. Tommy settled onto a stool, 2 seats down from Marcus. His eyes were sharp, taking in Marcus's sodden appearance with a quick glance. Rough night. You could say that, Marcus replied. He got turned away from Eclipse, Dot explained, setting a beer in front of Tommy without being asked. Had some important meeting? Eclipse? Tommy snorted. That overpriced meat market. You didn't miss anything. Trust me, you've been. I own it. Marcus nearly choked on his whiskey. You're joking. Nope. Bought it 2 years ago. Worst investment I ever made, but it prints money, so I keep it open. Tommy extended a hand. Tom Brennan. Marcus shook it, his mind racing. Marcus Williams. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to insult your club. Insult away. I hate the place. Only go there when I absolutely have to. Tom took a long pull from his beer. Let me guess you weren't on the list. That's right. Was it Dimitri at the door? Big guy, looks like he could bench press a car. That's him. Yeah. He's a piece of work. Takes that list more seriously than the Secret Service. I've been meaning to talk to him about it, but ... double quotes. Tom shrugged. The people who go to Eclipse expect that kind of treatment. They want to feel special, like they're part of some exclusive club. If I made it easy to get in, they'd stop coming. But I had a legitimate meeting. My colleague made the reservation. I'm sure she did. But here's the thing about those lists, they're not really about who's supposed to be there. They're about who looks like they're supposed to be there. Tom's voice carried a weight of experience, and I'm guessing you didn't fit the profile. Marcus felt the implied meaning in those words. He'd felt it before, many times, but it still stung. Because I'm black. Because you're not them, Tom corrected. Could be race, could be class, could be that you were wearing the wrong watch or your hair was parted on the wrong side. Dimitri has his own criteria, and I've given up trying to figure it out. But you own the place. I could do a lot of things. I could fire Dimitri, change the policies, make it a place where anyone could walk in off the street. And within 6 months, Eclipse would be empty, and I'd be out several $1 million. Tom signaled for another beer. That's the paradox of places like Eclipse. The exclusion is the product. People don't go there for the overpriced drinks or the mediocre DJ. They go there to be inside while other people are outside. That's depressing, Marcus said. That's business. Tom studied Marcus more carefully. You said you're a lawyer. What firm? Harriman and Associates. Good firm. I've worked with them before. Who's your client? That's so important, you're standing in the rain. Richard Hartley. Hartley Industries. Tom laughed, a sharp bark that held no humor. Dick Hartley, that pompous ass. You're not missing anything there either. The man's a dinosaur. Still thinks it's 1985. He's potentially worth millions in billing to my firm, and he'll dangle that potential in front of you for years without ever committing. I've seen his type 1,000 times. They love the power more than the deal. Tom paused. What kind of law do you practice? Corporate, mergers and acquisitions. Mostly. Good field. Boring as hell. But good money. Tom reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. It was simple. Just his name and a phone number. I'm always looking for good lawyers. Real ones, not the empty suits that usually pitch me. Give me a call next week. Marcus took the card, unsure what to make of this turn of events. I appreciate that, but I have a job. For now. But after tonight, when Dick Hartley complains to your partners about you missing the meeting, when your colleague throws you under the bus to save herself. Tom's smile was knowing. That job might not be as secure as you think. Sarah wouldn't. Marcus began, then stopped. Would she? They'd worked together for 2 years, but when it came down to it, would she protect him or herself? Look, Tom continued, I'm not trying to poach you, but I've been where you are, standing on the outside, nose pressed against the glass, wondering why they won't let me in. The difference is, I decided to buy the whole damn building. Then I realized the view from inside isn't any better. It's just warmer. Refilled Marcus's glass without being asked. Tommy's got a point. Sometimes, the best revenge is not needing their approval anymore. Easy for you to say, Marcus countered. You own the club. You've already made it. Made it, Tom laughed again. Kid, I grew up in Bridgeport. My dad worked the docks, my mom cleaned houses. I put myself through community college, then DePaul, working nights at a warehouse. Every door I tried to walk through, someone like Dimitri was there to tell me I wasn't on the list. He took another drink. So I stopped trying to get on their lists. I made my own. Started with 1 laundromat, then 2, then a whole chain. Used that money to buy real estate. Used that to buy businesses. And you know what I discovered? The view from the VIP section is terrible. It's just a bunch of people worried about staying in the VIP section. Marcus's phone buzzed. Sarah again. Where are you? Hartley is furious. This is a disaster. He showed the text to Tom, who shrugged. Disaster for who? You're sitting in a warm bar, having a drink, having a real conversation. She's trapped in a loud club, trying to explain your absence to a man who probably hasn't listened to anyone but himself in 20 years. Who's really having the disaster? My career is having the disaster. Your career at a firm that sends you out in the rain to meet clients at a nightclub. That makes you grovel to get past velvet ropes. That career. Marcus didn't answer. The whiskey was starting to work its magic, warming him from the inside out, making the sharp edges of his humiliation feel softer, more bearable. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said finally. "If you hate Eclipse so much, why keep it open?" "Because it serves a purpose," Tom replied. "It keeps certain people busy and away from the businesses I actually care about. It's like a bug zap, all the pests to one location." "That's cynical, that's experience." Tom finished his beer and stood. "Look, Marcus, I don't know you, but I know your type. You're smart, ambitious, probably top of your class. You've done everything right, followed all the rules, and you're still standing in the rain. Maybe it's time to try something different." He put on his coat. "Call me next week. Not for a job, I'm not sure I have one that would suit you, but maybe we can talk about what comes next. After you're done trying to get past velvet ropes. What makes you think I'll be done?" Tom smiled. "Because you're sitting here instead of still standing in line. That's a start." He nodded to Dot. "Put his drinks on my tab, Dot, all night." "You don't have to," Marcus began. "I know I don't, but someday, you'll do the same for someone else. That's how it works." Tom headed for the door, then paused. "Oh, and Marcus, next time you're caught in the rain, remember not every storm is a disaster. Sometimes it's just washing away the things that needed to go." With that, he was gone, leaving Marcus alone with Dot and his thoughts. "Marcus, you know that's not true, isn't it?" The elevator climbed steadily, each floor marking another step toward his professional judgment day. "When was the last time I was invited to the golf outings? The yacht parties? The real meetings, the ones that happen after the official meetings? That's different. That's social stuff, right? The social stuff where the real decisions get made." They rode in silence until the 35th floor, where Sarah got off. She turned back, her expression pained. "I really am sorry, Marcus. I should have double-checked the list. I should have gone down to get you myself." "It's not your fault, Sarah." "Then whose fault is it?" Marcus thought about Dimitri, about velvet ropes and lists, and Tom Brennan's words about bug zappers. Maybe it's nobody's fault. Maybe it's everybody's fault. Maybe fault is the wrong question entirely. The elevator doors closed on Sarah's confused expression. The executive floor was a different world from the associate levels below. Deeper carpets, wider hallways, original artwork on the walls instead of mass-produced prints. Marcus had been here exactly 3 times before, each visit carefully orchestrated and brief. Peterson's assistant, Margaret, looked up as he approached. She'd been with the firm for 30 years, had seen hundreds of associates come and go. Her expression was carefully neutral. "Good morning, Mr. Williams. Mr. Peterson is expecting you." "Thank you, Margaret." "Marcus." She lowered her voice. "For what it's worth, I think what happened last night was shameful. You're a good lawyer. Don't let them make you forget that." Before he could respond, she was already announcing his arrival through the intercom. James Peterson's office was designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Chicago River. The desk was a massive slab of mahogany that had supposedly belonged to Clarence Darrow. The walls were lined with photographs of Peterson with judges, politicians, and captains of industry, a visual resume of power and connection. Peterson himself sat behind the desk like a judge at bench. He was in his 60s, with silver hair and the kind of tan that came from winters in Scottsdale and summers in the Hamptons. He didn't look up when Marcus entered. "Sit." Marcus sat. Peterson continued reading whatever document held his attention, letting the silence stretch. It was a power play, one Marcus had seen him use on opposing counsel. Make them wait, make them sweat. Make them speak first and reveal their weakness. Marcus didn't speak. Finally, Peterson set down the document and fixed Marcus with cold blue eyes. "Do you know how long Hartley Industries has been a client of this firm?" 17 years. 17 years. "Do you know how much revenue they've generated in that time?" "Approximately 43 million in billable hours, not counting the referrals and ancillary business." Peterson's eyebrow twitched surprise that Marcus knew the number. "And do you know how much of that future revenue is now in jeopardy because of last night's fiasco?" "With respect, Mr. Peterson, I don't believe the future revenue is in jeopardy." "Excuse me. Richard Hartley threatens to take his business elsewhere every time he doesn't get exactly what he wants. He did it last year when we couldn't get his grandson out of a DUI. He did it 2 years ago when we advised against the Meridian acquisition. He never follows through because he knows we're the best firm in the city for his needs. That may have been true before last night. But failing to show up for a client meeting, I didn't fail to show up. I was denied entry to the venue, despite being on the list. That's not what Hartley says. He says you never arrived, never called, never attempted to make contact. Because I couldn't get past the door to make contact. And my attempts to reach Sarah Chen were stopped. Peterson held up a hand. I don't want to hear excuses. I don't want to hear about doors or lists or any of that. What I want to hear is how you're going to fix this. Fix what? Exactly. Peterson's face reddened. Fix the damage to our relationship with a major client. Fix the embarrassment to this firm. Fix the perception that we can't handle simple logistics. I can't fix any of those things. Then we have a problem, don't we? Marcus met Peterson's gaze steadily. Yes, we do. But not the problem you think. I beg your pardon. The problem isn't that I couldn't get into a nightclub. The problem is that we're conducting business meetings in nightclubs. The problem is that we're catering to clients who judge our professionalism by our ability to navigate velvet ropes instead of our legal expertise. Peterson leaned back in his chair. Are you really going to sit there and lecture me about how this firm conducts business? No, I'm going to sit here and tell you the truth. Richard Hartley was never going to sign a new retainer agreement last night. He was going to drink overpriced champagne, ogle women half his age, and string us along for another 6 months while he played us against Morrison and The only thing that changed is that I wasn't there to enable the charade. How dare you? I've brought in $8 million in new business this year. Marcus continued calmly. I've won 92% of my cases. I've been nominated for the Chicago Bar Association's Young Lawyer of the Year award, and yet, the moment I can't get past a nightclub bouncer, all of that becomes irrelevant. Peterson was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was dangerously quiet. What becomes irrelevant, Mr. Williams, is your inability to understand that success in this profession isn't just about winning cases, it's about maintaining relationships. It's about being where you need to be when you need to be there. It's about making clients feel valued. Valued, right? Marcus felt something shift inside him, a tectonic plate finally giving way after years of pressure. Tell me, Mr. Peterson, when was the last time you had to convince a bouncer that you belonged somewhere? When was the last time security followed you through a store? When was the last time a client mistook you for the help? That's not relevant. It's the only thing that's relevant. You want me to fix the perception that we can't handle simple logistics. The logistics weren't the problem. The problem is that I don't look like I belong in the VIP section, and no amount of billable hours is going to change that. Peterson's face had gone from red to purple. Are you suggesting that this firm is? That I am, racist. Marcus almost laughed. No, Mr. Peterson, you're not racist. You gave me a job, after all. You promoted me. You even invited me to your house for the company Christmas party, the one in the basement. Not the one in the main house for partners. There was only one Christmas party. Really? Then I guess the partners just happened to all leave at the same time to attend another engagement. What a coincidence. Peterson stood abruptly. I think we're done here. I agree. Marcus stood, as well. Should I clean out my office now, or do I get the courtesy of doing it after hours? That depends. Are you resigning, or am I firing you? Marcus thought about it. Resigning would look better on his resume, would make the transition easier. But easy had never gotten him anywhere worth being. Neither. I'm going to go back to my office and continue working. I have the Brenner deposition this afternoon and the Kowalski brief due tomorrow. If you want me gone, you'll have to fire me. And we both know that opens the firm up to a wrongful termination suit that would make Hartley's complaints look like a thank you note. Peterson's jaw worked silently for a moment. Get out of my office. Gladly. Marcus turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Mr. Peterson, you might want to ask yourself why, in 17 years, Richard Hartley has never once brought you actual new business. Just promises of it. Maybe the problem isn't that I couldn't get into the VIP section. Maybe the problem is that we've been paying cover charge for an empty room. He left without waiting for a response. The walk back to his office felt different. The same hallways, the same faces, but Marcus saw them with new clarity. The associates who scurried past with their heads down, afraid to make eye contact. The partners who walked like they owned the air itself. The support staff who kept everything running but were treated like furniture. His office, a modest interior space with no windows, was exactly as he'd left it yesterday. Law books lined the shelves, diplomas hung on the walls, and case files covered every available surface. 3 years of his life measured in billable hours and legal briefs. He sat down and opened his laptop. 63 new emails since this morning. He scrolled through them, finding what he expected: nervous colleagues wanting to know what happened, partners suddenly needing things ASAP, clients who'd heard rumors and wanted reassurance, and one that stood out. From TB Wren, Ann@BrennanHoldings.com. Subject: Coffee. Marcus, hope you made it home safely last night. I meant what I said about talking. Not about a job, about what comes next. I find the morning after a storm is usually when we see things most clearly. I'll be at Millennium Park Cafe from 10 to 11 a.m. If you're free, I'll buy the coffee. If not, no worries. The offer stands whenever you're ready. Also, I heard Hartley threw quite the tantrum after you left. Something about respect and professionalism. Funny how the people who demand respect the loudest usually deserve it the least. TOMPS, I told Dimitri about you. He says he doesn't remember turning you away. Selective memory is a wonderful thing, isn't it? Marcus checked his calendar. The Brenner deposition wasn't until 2 p.m. He could spare an hour for coffee. More importantly, he wanted to spare an hour for coffee. He was about to reply when Sarah appeared in his doorway. She'd fixed her makeup and changed clothes, but the stress was still evident in the tightness around her eyes. How did it go with Peterson? About as well as expected. Are you ... Did he? I'm still here. For now. Sarah slumped against the doorframe. I can't believe this is happening. Over a stupid nightclub. It's insane. Is it? Really think about it, Sarah. Is it insane? Or is it exactly how things always go? What do you mean? Marcus gestured for her to sit. She perched on the edge of a chair, ready to flee at any moment. Tell me about the last 5 client meetings you organized. Where were they? I don't see what humor me. Sarah thought. Well, there was lunch at Gibson's with the Prescott team. Dinner at RPM Italian with the Nexus executives. Drinks at the Chicago Club with Judge Morrison's retirement party. The golf outing at Medina for the healthcare summit. And last night at Eclipse. Notice a pattern. They're all nice places. They're all places with gates. Literal or figurative. Places where someone decides who gets in and who doesn't. And in 3 years, how many times have I been the one who doesn't? Sarah's face went pale as she did the math. But that's not, I mean, you've been to some of them. When I forced the issue. When I made it awkward to exclude me. Never, because I was naturally included. Marcus pulled up a document on his computer. Do you know what this is? Sarah looked at the screen. The Hartley billing records. 5 years of them. Want to know something interesting? In 5 years, Richard Hartley has paid this firm $12 million in fees. Want to know how much new business he's referred? I don't know. A lot. $0 in referrals. 0 new clients brought in. Just promises. Always promises. Next quarter, next year, after this deal closes. But it never happens. Maybe he's just particular about referrals. Or maybe he likes having a law firm on retainer that jumps whenever he says jump. That sends its lawyers out in the rain to nightclubs. That begs for scraps of approval that never come. Sarah stood abruptly. I have to go. I have a meeting. Sarah, wait. Marcus softened his tone. I'm not blaming you. You're caught in the same system I am. The difference is, you can navigate it better. Because I'm white. Because you're everything they expect to see in places like Eclipse. That's not your fault, but it's also not nothing. Sarah looked like she wanted to argue, then deflated. So what do we do? I don't know what you do. But I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have coffee with someone who owns the club, but chooses to drink in a dive bar. I'm going to finish my work for the day because my clients deserve that. And then I'm going to figure out what comes next. What if Peterson fires you? Then I'll deal with that when it happens. But I'm done trying to get on lists that were never meant to include me. After Sarah left, Marcus sent a reply to Tom Brennan. See you at 10. He spent the next hour working on the Kowalski brief, losing himself in the familiar rhythm of legal arguments and case citations. It was good work, solid work, the kind that actually helped people, instead of just moving money from one pile to another. At 9:45, he saved his progress and prepared to leave. In the hallway, he passed Peterson talking to Richard Hartley near the elevator bank. Hartley, a heavy-set man with the ruddy complexion of someone who lunched more than he worked, spotted Marcus and his face darkened. There he is, Hartley said, loud enough for the entire floor to hear. The lawyer who thinks he's too good to meet with clients. Marcus stopped walking but didn't turn around. He could feel every eye in the vicinity watching, waiting to see how this would play out. Nothing to say. Hartley continued. Last night you had plenty to say. Oh wait, that's right, you couldn't be bothered to show up. Marcus turned slowly. Mr. Hartley, I apologize for the confusion last night. There was an issue with the venue's security that prevented my entry. Excuses. That's all you people have, isn't it? Excuses. You people. There it was. Mask off. The words hanging in the air like a toxic cloud. Peterson's face had gone pale. Richard, perhaps we should discuss this in my office. No need, I've made my decision. Morrison and Forster will be handling our business, going forward. At least they know how to show up. That's certainly your prerogative, Marcus said calmly. I'll have the transition documents prepared by end of day. I'm sure Morrison and Forster will be thrilled to inherit your account. All those promises of future business, all those almost deals that never quite materialize. They'll probably even assign someone to follow you to nightclubs. Hartley's face went from red to purple, much like Peterson's had earlier. How dare you? No, Marcus interrupted. How dare you? How dare you waste this firm's time and resources? For 5 years with nothing to show for it but bills and broken promises. How dare you demand respect you've never earned? How dare you stand here and use coded language to say what you really mean because you're too cowardly to say it outright? Marcus, Peterson warned. I'm done, Mr. Peterson. Not with the firm. I'll leave that decision to you. But I'm done pretending that men like Mr. Hartley deserve deference simply because they inherited wealth and influence. I'm done acting like being excluded from rooms I never wanted to enter is some great tragedy. Most of all, I'm done apologizing for existing in spaces that were designed to keep me out. The silence that followed was deafening. Hartley looked like he'd been slapped. Peterson seemed to be calculating lawsuit probabilities. The other associates and staff who'd gathered to watch the show stood frozen, unsure whether to applaud or flee. You'll be hearing from my lawyers, Hartley finally managed. I certainly hope so, Marcus replied. I'd love to depose you about your business practices. I have 5 years of documentation that would make for fascinating reading. Did you know that recording client meetings is standard practice at this firm? I bet Morrison and Forster would be very interested in some of your more colorful comments about their partners. Hartley's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Without another word, he stabbed the elevator button and disappeared inside when the doors opened. Peterson looked at Marcus for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he turned and walked back to his office without a word. The gathered crowd dispersed slowly, whispers following Marcus as he continued to the elevator. He caught fragments. Did you see, ... Can't believe he said ... Double quotes about time someone ... In the elevator, alone, finally, Marcus allowed himself a small smile. He'd either just committed career suicide or performed career liberation. Either way, he had a coffee appointment to keep. The morning sun had burned away the last remnants of yesterday's storm, leaving the city gleaming. As Marcus walked toward Millennium Park, he felt lighter with each step. His phone buzzed constantly. Colleagues, clients. Probably half the legal community had heard about the confrontation by now, but he ignored it. Tom Brennan was already at the cafe when Marcus arrived, sitting at an outdoor table with 2 cups of coffee waiting. He looked up from his newspaper and grinned. Well, you look like a man who just told someone exactly where they could stick their billable hours. Marcus sat down, picking up the coffee gratefully. Word travels fast. In Chicago, please. I knew about your showdown with Hartley before you probably made it to the elevator. 3 different people texted me. Tom's expression grew more serious. How are you doing? Honestly, I'm not sure. I think I just torched my career, but I feel better than I have in years. That's because you didn't torch your career. You torched their version of your career. There's a difference. Is there? Because, from where I'm sitting, I just alienated one of the city's most influential businessmen and probably got myself blackballed from every major firm in Chicago. Richard Hartley isn't influential. He's rich. People confuse the two, but they're not the same thing. Influence means people follow your lead because they respect your judgment. People follow Hartley because he might throw money at them. The second the money dries up, and, trust me, it will heal. Be just another angry old man shouting at clouds. Marcus sipped his coffee, considering. You seem to know him well. We've crossed paths. He tried to buy one of my properties a few years back. offered 20% below market, and acted like he was doing me a favor. When I turned him down, he tried to sic the city inspectors on me. Funny thing about city inspectors, they're not as impressed by bluster as law firms are. So what happened? I bought the building his country club was leasing, raised the rent to market rate. He had to move the whole operation to Schaumburg. Tom's smile was sharp. Influence is knowing which levers to pull. Money is just one lever, and not even the most important one. Easy to say when you have money. True, but I didn't always have it, and when I was standing on the outside, nose pressed against the glass, I made myself a promise. I wouldn't become them. I'd become something else, something better. And did you? Tom considered the question seriously. Some days, other days I catch myself acting just like them and have to check myself. It's a process, but at least I'm aware of it. Most of them aren't even that conscious. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the city move around them. Office workers hurried past, tourists gathered for photos at Cloud Gate. Life continued its relentless pace. So, Tom said eventually, what's your next move? Honestly, I have no idea. I should probably start updating my resume, reaching out to headhunters, but I'm tired of auditioning for rooms that don't want me in them. I'm tired of proving I belong somewhere I'm not even sure I want to be. I'm tired of champagne problems when there's real work to be done. Tom nodded slowly. I hear that, so what kind of real work calls to you? Marcus thought about it. I went to law school to help people. To fight for the ones who couldn't fight for themselves. Somewhere along the way, I got seduced by the prestige and the money and the promise of eventually mattering, but I've spent 3 years helping rich people get richer. And what do I have to show for it? A nice apartment, from what I hear, good suits, a Rolex. All of which I was willing to risk standing in the rain for the privilege of being led into a room full of people who see me as the help. Marcus laughed bitterly. You know what the really pathetic part is? If Dimitri had let me in, I'd be sitting in my office right now, billing hours, planning the next client dinner at the next exclusive venue. It took being locked out to realize I'd been locked in. So maybe Dimitri did you a favor. Maybe he did. Marcus paused. You mentioned you're always looking for good lawyers. What kind of legal work does your company do? All kinds. Real estate, obviously, but also employment law, immigration, small business advocacy. Unsexy stuff that doesn't make the legal journals but keeps communities running. The pay isn't Harriman and Associates level, but it's honest work for honest money. And you need lawyers for that. I need the right lawyers for that. Ones who understand that law isn't just about winning arguments. It's about solving problems. It's about making sure the playing field is as level as we can make it, even when the whole system is built on a slant. Marcus's phone rang. Peterson's name on the screen. He declined the call. Important? Tom asked. Probably my termination call. I'll deal with it later. Or don't deal with it at all. Let them figure out how to fire someone for telling the truth. Meanwhile, you figure out what you actually want to do next. You make it sound simple. It is simple. It's just not easy. Tom pulled out a card different from the one last night. This one had more information. My direct line. When you're ready to talk seriously about next steps, call me. Not before. Take time to think, to breathe, to remember why you became a lawyer in the first place. What if I can't remember? Then maybe it's time to find a new reason. They finished their coffee as the city hummed around them. When they parted, Tom shook Marcus's hand firmly. Whatever happens, Tom said, don't let them make you small. They'll try, God knows they'll try. They'll tell you that you were unprofessional, that you burned bridges, that you'll never work in this town again. But you know what? This town is bigger than their version of it. There's a whole city out here full of people doing real work, building real things, solving real problems. You just have to decide if you want to join them. Walking back to the office, Marcus felt the weight of the morning settling on his shoulders. He'd crossed lines that couldn't be uncrossed, said things that couldn't be unsaid. But underneath the uncertainty was something else, a clarity he hadn't felt in years. His phone had accumulated 17 more missed calls by the time he reached the building. He scrolled through them. Peterson, HR, various partners, even a few clients. The legal community gossip mill was in overdrive. But one message stood out, from a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Williams. This is Diana Reeves from the Legal Aid Society of Chicago. I heard about what happened this morning. If you're considering a change, we'd love to talk. We can't match big firm salaries, but we can offer something else, the chance to remember why law matters. Call me when you're ready. Marcus stood outside the gleaming tower that had been his professional home for 3 years. Inside, his career as he'd known it was probably ending. His colleagues were likely gossiping about his meltdown. Peterson was undoubtedly consulting with HR about damage control, but out here, in the actual world, the sun was shining, and the city was alive with possibility. The storm had passed, leaving everything washed clean. He thought about velvet ropes and VIP sections, about champagne flutes and empty promises, about all the rooms he'd tried so hard to enter only to find them airless and hollow. Then he thought about Murphy's, about Dot's wisdom and Tom's clarity, about the warmth of a simple bar where nobody checked lists because everyone was already welcome. Marcus made a decision. He'd go back inside, finish his work for the day. His clients deserved that much. He'd handle whatever Peterson threw at him with dignity. He'd transition his cases properly because that was the right thing to do. But he wouldn't apologize. He wouldn't grovel. He wouldn't make himself small to fit into spaces that were designed to exclude him. The security guard nodded as he entered, the same greeting as every morning for 3 years. But everything had changed. Marcus had changed. The velvet rope had done its job, just not in the way anyone expected. Sometimes the best thing that can happen is not getting what you think you want. Sometimes being kept out is really being set free. As the elevator rose toward whatever waited on the 42nd floor, Marcus Williams smiled. For the first time in 3 years, he wasn't trying to get past any rope at all. 3 weeks had passed since the Eclipse incident, as it had come to be known in Chicago legal circles. Marcus Williams sat in a conference room at the Legal Aid Society, surrounded by case files that represented real people with real problems: tenants facing eviction, workers denied wages, immigrants navigating a Byzantine system designed to exclude them. The mahogany had been replaced by pressed wood, the skyline view by a parking lot, but Marcus felt more at home than he ever had at Harriman and Associates. "Marcus, you ready for the Delgado hearing?" Diana Reeves poked her head into the conference room. She was in her 50s, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a bun, and the kind of tired eyes that came from 30 years of fighting unwinnable battles and winning just enough to keep going. Almost. Just reviewing the landlord's filing history. Did you know Blackstone Properties has filed for eviction against 40% of their tenants in the last 2 years? Sounds about right. They buy up buildings, jack up rents, force out long-term residents, then flip to luxury condos. Diana entered the room fully, settling into a chair across from him. "How are you adjusting?" "It's been, 2 weeks? 2.5, and I'm good. Better than good, actually. Even with the pay cut." Marcus laughed. "Especially with the pay cut. Turns out you need a lot less money when you're not trying to keep up with people who inherited their wealth." And the Peterson situation. The question brought a slight tightening to Marcus's jaw. His departure from Harriman and Associates had not been smooth. Peterson had tried to fire him for cause, claiming insubordination and conduct detrimental to the firm. Marcus had countered with a detailed letter outlining potential discrimination claims. Backed by 3 years of meticulously documented incidents, they'd eventually agreed to a mutual separation with a modest severance and, more importantly, a neutral reference. Resolved, he got to save face. "I got to leave with my license intact. Everyone wins. Except Richard Hartley. Especially Richard. Hartley, did you hear Morrison and Forster dropped him after 2 weeks? Apparently, he tried the same promise and stringling routine with them, but they actually did their due diligence." Diana smiled. "Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Speaking of which, we have a visitor coming by this afternoon. Tom Brennan. Says you know him. Tom's coming here. He called yesterday. Said he's interested in funding some of our housing advocacy work. Wants to tour the facility, meet the team. I figured you could show him around since you know him." Marcus felt a familiar warmth. He'd had coffee with Tom twice more since that first morning. Conversations that ranged from legal philosophy to Chicago politics to the best deep dish pizza joints. Tom had never pushed about employment, never made offers. He'd just been there. A sounding board and occasional wisdom dispenser. Happy to. "What time?" 3 o'clock. "Try not to oversell us. I know the conference room is held together with duct tape and hope, but it's our duct tape and hope." After Diana left, Marcus returned to the Delgado file. Maria Delgado, single mother of 3, facing eviction because she'd been 2 days late with rent after her employer had delayed paychecks. The landlord Blackstone Properties had a zero-tolerance policy that they applied selectively. usually to tenants in rent-controlled units they wanted to convert to market rate. It was the kind of case that would never have crossed his desk. At Harriman and Associates. No billable hours to speak of, no deep-pocketed client, no prestige. Just a woman trying to keep a roof over her children's heads. His phone buzzed. Sarah Chen. Hey, stranger, he answered. Marcus, how are you? I've been meaning to call, but things have been crazy here. I can imagine. How's the 42nd floor? Tense. Peterson's been on a rampage since you left. New policies about client entertainment, approved venue lists, buddy system for client meetings. It's like he's trying to prevent another you, another me, someone who tells the truth. It's making everyone nervous. She paused. I heard you're at legal aid now. Word travels fast. Are you happy? Marcus looked around the shabby conference room, at the water-stained ceiling tiles and the ancient copier that jammed if you looked at it wrong. Yeah, I am. It's hard work for little money, but at least I know why I'm doing it. I envy that. Knowing why. Sarah's voice carried a weight he hadn't heard before. I've been thinking about what you said, about the velvet ropes and the lists. You were right. I never noticed because I never had to. It's not about blame, Sarah. It's about seeing. Well, I see it now. Yesterday, we had a client meeting at the Standard Club. Do you know they didn't have a single black member until 1970? And even now, double quotes, she trailed off. I sat there listening to these men talk about their golf handicaps and their ski houses. And I kept thinking about you standing in the rain. I'm not standing in the rain anymore. No, you're not. And maybe that's what I envy most. They talked for a few more minutes, gossip about former colleagues, updates on cases they'd worked together. When they hung up, Marcus felt a strange mix of nostalgia and relief. That world still existed, still spun on its axis of billable hours and exclusive venues. He just wasn't part of it anymore. The morning flew by in a blur of client interviews and court filings. The Delgado hearing went better than expected. The judge, familiar with Blackstone's tactics, granted a continuance and strongly suggested mediation. Maria Delgado cried with relief, hugging Marcus like he'd saved her life. In a way, he had. Lunch was takeout Chinese eaten at his desk while preparing for the afternoon's housing court marathon. 6 cases, all variations on the same themed, landlords trying to squeeze out long-term tenants to cash in on gentrification. It was David versus Goliath work. If David had a law degree and Goliath had an army of corporate attorneys. At 2:55, Marcus straightened his tie, a simple silk one. Nothing like the designer pieces gathering dust in his closet, and headed to the reception area. Tom Brennan was already there, chatting with the receptionist, making her laugh with some story about his first apartment in Chicago. Marcus. Tom stood, extending his hand. Look at you, fighting the good fight. Tom, thanks for coming. Wouldn't miss it. I've been meaning to check this place out for years. Never had the right reason until now. Marcus led him through the offices, introducing him to the skeletal staff: 3 attorneys, 2 paralegals, and an administrative assistant for an area that needed 10 times that. Tom asked thoughtful questions, took genuine interest in the work, and didn't once comment on the shabbiness of the In the conference room, Diana joined them. Mr. Brennan, thank you for your interest. Marcus speaks highly of you. Please, call me Tom. And the admiration is mutual. What you're doing here, it's important work. Important and underfunded, Diana said with the directness of someone who'd long ago stopped mincing words. We turn away 10 cases for everyone we take. Not because they don't have merit, but because we don't have the resources. Tell me about the housing advocacy program, Marcus mentioned. Diana launched into an explanation of their efforts to combat predatory landlords, preserve affordable housing, and protect tenant rights. Marcus watched Tom listen, really listen, not the polite attention of someone waiting for their turn to talk, but the focused engagement of someone trying to understand. How much would it take to expand the program? Tom asked when Diana finished. To hire another attorney, maybe a paralegal, cover the overhead. Honestly, about $200,000 a year would transform what we could do. Tom nodded. Let me talk to my foundation board. I think we can make that happen. Diana's composed facade cracked slightly. You're serious? Dead serious. I've made a lot of money in real estate. Some of it probably came at the expense of people like your clients. Consider this a small attempt at balancing the scales. Tom, Marcus interjected. You don't owe. I know I don't owe anything. That's what makes it worth doing. Tom stood. Diana, I'll have my people call your people. Or, given your staffing situation, I'll call you directly. We'll work out the details. After Tom left, Diana turned to Marcus. Did that just happen? I think so. In 28 years, I've never had someone walk in and offer to fund a program without wanting their name on a building or a seat on the board or some other ego stroke. Tom's not like most people with money. No kidding, Diana studied. Marcus, you've changed since you started here. Less polished, more present. It suits you. Less polished. I mean that as a compliment. The Marcus who interviewed 3 weeks ago was wearing armor-perfect suit, perfect resume, perfect answers. This Marcus seems more like a person and less like a performance. That evening, Marcus met Tom for dinner at a small Italian place in Little Italy, the kind with checkered tablecloths and candles stuck in wine bottles. No reservation required, no dress code enforced, just good food and honest conversation. 200,000 is a lot of money, Marcus said after they'd ordered. It's a rounding error in my real estate portfolio, Tom replied. The building Eclipse is in generates that in about 10 days. Still, look, Marcus, I'm 63 years old. I've made more money than I can spend in 3 lifetimes. My kids are set, my grandkids are set, their kids will be set. At some point, accumulation becomes obscene. Most people with your wealth don't see it that way. Most people with my wealth started with wealth. They've never stood on the outside looking in, so they can't imagine what it's like. They think the velvet rope is natural, necessary even. They need to believe that to justify their position. And you don't. I know exactly what I am, a guy who got lucky, worked hard, and caught some breaks. The working hard part was important, but without the luck and the breaks. Tom shrugged. I'm probably still loading trucks in a warehouse. Their food arrived simple, hearty dishes that would never make a food critic's list, but satisfied in ways molecular gastronomy never could. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Can I ask you something? Marcus said eventually. That night at Murphy's, when you told me about owning Eclipse, was that coincidence? Tom smiled. What do you think? I think very little in your life is coincidence. Smart man. Dot called me when you left the bar. Said there was a young lawyer sitting in her place, looking like the world had ended. Said I might want to drop by. You came out in a storm because a bartender called. I came out because Dot's got good instincts. In 40 years, she's called me maybe 5 times. Each time led to something important. So this was what? Charity. This was recognition. I saw myself in you, not the surface stuff, but the deeper thing. The moment when you realize the game is rigged and you have to decide whether to keep playing by their rules or make your own. And which did you choose? Both, at different times. Made my money playing their game. Then used it to change the rules where I could. It's not a perfect system, but it's what was available to me. Marcus pushed his pasta around his plate, thinking. I got an interesting call yesterday. From Hartley. Tom's eyebrows rose. Dick, Hartley called you? What did he want? To hire me, personally. Apparently, Morrison and Forster wasn't the right fit, and he's been impressed by my integrity and honesty. You're joking. I'm not. He offered to double my legal aid salary if I'd handle his personal legal matters, set up a solo practice, be his on-call attorney. What did you tell him? That I was flattered but committed to my current position. He seemed genuinely confused, like he couldn't understand why I'd turned down money. Tom laughed, a rich sound that drew glances from nearby tables. Of course he couldn't. Men like Hartley think everything has a price because, in their world, everything does. The idea that someone might value something more than money breaks their brains. Was I stupid to turn it down? It was a lot of money. Was standing in the rain stupid? Sometimes the stupid thing is the smart thing, just not in the way people expect. They finished dinner, splitting the check despite Tom's protests. Outside, the October air had turned crisp, carrying hints of the winter to come. Thank you, Marcus said. For dinner, for the legal aid funding, for that night at Murphy's. For all of it. Thank yourself. All I did was buy you a whiskey and tell you what you already knew. You're the one who decided to stop trying to get past the rope. They shook hands and parted ways. Marcus walked home through neighborhoods in transition, gentrification creeping in block by block, old residents, holding on where they could. He thought about Maria Delgado and her children, about the 40% eviction rate at Blackstone Properties. About all the people standing in the rain without even a velvet rope to mark their exclusion. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Williams, this is James Peterson. I wanted to personally apologize for how things ended. You were right about many things. If you're ever interested in returning to private practice, please, call me. Marcus read it twice, then deleted it. Some bridges, once burned, illuminated the path forward. His apartment felt different now, smaller maybe. Or maybe he just saw it differently. The expensive furniture and designer touches seemed excessive, like costume pieces for a role he no longer played. He'd been thinking about moving, finding something simpler, closer to work. Something that felt more like home and less like a stage set. He poured himself a scotch, the good stuff, because why not? And stood at his window looking out at the city. Somewhere out there, Eclipse was gearing up for another night of exclusion and illusion. Dimitri was checking his list, turning away. The unworthy. The VIP section was filling with people who'd never question their right to be there. But also out there, Dot was tending bar at Murphy's, offering wisdom with whiskey. Diana was probably still at the office, fighting impossible fights. Tom was finding ways to use his wealth for something more than accumulation. Sarah was maybe, finally, seeing the ropes that had been invisible to her. And Maria Delgado was tucking her children into bed in an apartment she'd get to keep, at least for now. Marcus raised his glass to the city, to the velvet ropes and the people who cut them down, to the storms that washed away illusions and the mornings after that brought clarity. His phone rang. Diana. I know it's late, but we just got an emergency case. Blackstone Properties is trying to evict an entire building, 48 units. They filed just before close of business, hoping we wouldn't respond in time. Can you send me the details? I'll start working on the injunction tonight. Marcus, you don't have to. Yes, I do. That's why I'm here. He hung up and opened his laptop. There was work to do. Real work. The kind that mattered. The kind that helped people who'd been standing in the rain so long they'd forgotten what it felt like to be dry. Outside his window, Chicago glittered with promises both kept and broken. Marcus Williams got to work, no longer trying to get past any rope at all. He was too busy cutting them down.